What up, everybody? Welcome to another Patreon episode of the Corner Podcast. Kel Dansby here with the old man Andreas and Kel. This week, we heard y'all talking. I was on vacation. That's why I don't take vacations, I guess. Next time, though, I'm not even gonna read the messages, but we saw y'all. Everyone wants to know our thoughts on the latest on one Puff Daddy. So we'll be talking about Puff during this show again. We'll see if this is the last time, but we're gonna kind of just give like a general overview, the stuff that came out, what this kind of means going forward, what it means for the music industry, and what we know, what we don't know, the opinions of everyone else around, according to the interwebs. We'll touch on a little bit of all of that. Before I get into that, though, thank you all for being on Patreon. Of course. Don't forget, sign up for the Corner Club episode 2. We'll be running one next week, depending on when you hear this, but it'll be the week after Memorial Day. We'll be recording one, and then the other one will be in July. So we're going to do a little closer because Conor fight week and all that stuff is crazy. So we'll record either right after that, right after 4th of July weekend, or even earlier before Conor week in June, just so we can keep cranking these out, because we really do appreciate each and every one of you. And thanks for telling other people to join. Now, Dre, one Puff Daddy. It is last time we talked, it was the reports, the speculation, the him claiming innocence. What brought his name back into circulation was a video was released. Video shows from the mid 2000s or the mid 2010s, maybe it was 2016, him chasing Cassie down in the middle of a hotel lobby, or not lobby, but floor, like down the hallway. He leaves his room, chases her, throws her to the ground, kicks her several times, like Pride Vitor Belfort kicks, soccer kicks on the floor. Kicks her, tells her, get up, drag her back to room. All security cam footage. It has since been talked about that was at the Intercontinental, which is now no longer, that one is no longer there. He paid $50,000 allegedly to bury the footage. Somehow the footage has gotten out. People see this footage. He then issues an apology saying that he was in a dark place. He has gotten help. He's gotten counseling. He's not that person anymore. If it wasn't a rap for him before, it's a rap now, right?
Yes, it's 100% a wrap. For starters, surprised it took this long. That's
Facts.
if you go back and listen to this podcast in 2020, when Me Too was under its full swing, I said repeatedly on this show, I don't know when it's coming, but I don't know how the hip hop industry in particular, has gotten away from this.
Yep.
I don't know how it has avoided this. Russell Simmons thing, it was like, nah, but there's more. Excuse me. But my time in the industry, these were like the worst kept secrets. The only thing we didn't have was proof. We heard about, there was a time, and I don't know where the interview is. Cassie had came by my office at BET, and me and Low Key had interviewed her, and things just didn't feel right. And not like I thought that she was getting abused or anything like that. This is this is 2009.
Wow.
I think Me and You had just came out, but you could tell that like there was something weird with Cassie and Diddy. Diddy wasn't there. My friend Latrice, who worked at Atlantic at the time, brought her by. And you just got a sense that something ain't right. And as the years went on, you would see Cassie, who was much younger than Diddy, but whatever. She was legal, so that didn't matter. But things just fell off. And the fact that this is surfacing now, in 2024, a video from 2016 with Diddy physically manhandling this little, she's small. Like meeting Cassie, she's small, very small. And I saw her years later when she's with her new boyfriend. She was at a DAZN fight.
Yeah.
And she was ringside. And she was very low key. She didn't want to be spotted. She didn't want the cameras on or nothing. But she was there. And she had a new boyfriend, and she, still a small girl, but you could tell the industry had did something to her. Just couldn't tell what. Always had a feeling it was Diddy, just couldn't really confirm it. This is the confirmation. All the confirmation that you need is that this woman was the typical, hey baby, I can make you a star, right?
Yep.
Then I try to make you a star, and then basically you owe me for the rest of your life. You can't get away from me. I use my leverage as a music industry executive, one of the biggest in hip hop, in R&B, to we leverage that to trap you in the relationship, give you a hit song. Because let's keep it a buck. It's not like Cassie was like ultra talented to begin with, right?
No, she had Ryan Leslie production.
Right. Like she wasn't, it's like this can't miss talent. It was more of a manufactured talent that Diddy massaged into a situation where she had a decent song, right? She didn't pan out to be the star that he probably promised her she'd be, but it was leverage to trap that girl. And now that he beats her up on camera and it's gotten out there, it's a wrap for Diddy, because for a number of reasons, because everything we thought about him is true. And the apology was complete and utter bullshit, because you released a statement calling this woman a liar.
Yeah.
Right? Saying that they were just out for your money. Now that you got caught, now I'm in a dark place.
Yep.
Oh, now I'm getting help and therapy, and get the fuck out of here. You didn't get help. I don't believe that for 1 minute. You've beat on other women. They just haven't come out yet. Don't know what you did to Kim Porter. Right? Don't know.
Now it's like eyebrow raising, right? Like now it's like, regardless of whatever it may be, but to lead to someone, if they overdose or their life ends too short or whatever, just verbally or mentally abusing someone, like you just never know what it means. And for him to cry and then be so remorseful and everything, I guess they always are. Like if shit goes too bad, like
he's a sociopath, bro. Like the dude is a sociopath, and the trail of a sociopath can look no further than making the band. Like there's a reason, and I know there's other reasons, like legal and rights reasons, why making the band has never resurfaced on television.
Yeah.
He was abusive to those people. Abusive. Yes, we all remember them walking to Junior's for a cheesecake. And if you don't live in New York, you can't really comprehend how far that walk was for a cheesecake, right? This was just dick swinging at its highest level. To make people who are so starved for fandom and celebrity and success do your bidding. Making the band was proof that Diddy's a horrible person. How he treated Lorianne Gibson, very obvious and transparent. It's an abusive relationship. May not have been physical with Lorianne, but it's definitely emotional. You look at these instances and you say, this all kind of checks out, right? So now he gets caught, and now it's the floodgates are open. What's going to happen? Like some people have asked, is he going to go to jail? For this, no. Because statute of limitations are up. The civil case has been tried. the money's been paid out. And what people don't understand, and what's really frustrating, is jail isn't always the answer for millionaires and billionaires. There's been plenty of billionaires and millionaires who've gone to jail and just lived like it was Club Med. It didn't really do anything to deter them from who they are. You know where it does hurt them? Their pockets. You start taking away their business opportunities. You start taking away their money that they do have. You start bleeding them dry. What's going to end up happening, and we're already starting to see it, people are about to come out and sue the shit out of Puffy.
Austin. Yep. Just a big ass lawsuit. Class action.
And he can't fight them. He can't not afford to pay these things out because nobody believes you now, bro.
Yeah.
Your goodwill is gone. So if Cassie is just the tipping point. Anybody says, I was at a party in 2009, did he put his hands on me? He gonna have to pay him. He can't afford for that to go to trial, right? He can't afford for that to go in front of a judge.
Everyone who worked for him. Yo, he was this, he was that. Like,
what he has to hope for is that he didn't do anything recent, because then that's criminal. And if he does anything recent that's criminal and that there is documented evidence, now he's going to jail.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to build the case. What is very clear is that they've been building a case against Diddy. And for all y'all out there who was like treating like Bill Cosby, he was just trying to buy CBS. Shut the fuck up. Like, I've seen people out there was like, this is trying to bury him like Cosby. No. He did some foul shit.
Yeah.
They've been building a case against Diddy with the raid. We can't forget these raids with his drug mule getting pinned. Like all this stuff, they've been knocking down the walls to figure out where the shit is because we know it's there. And maybe the sex trafficking is hard to prove, but the domestic abuse is not. And now everybody's going to sue this man. Everybody's going to sue this man. I could sue him tomorrow and I'm going to get paid. So what's he going to tell me? No, I'll also keep this very transparent. In 2009, I interviewed Mark Curry. If anybody remembers Mark Curry, he was on Bad Boy for Life.
Oh, Mark Curry. Different Mark Curry. Yeah.
He wrote a book called Rolling with the Devil in 2008, 2009. I had him come by my office, and the stories that Mark Curry told me were, I was slackjawed. I couldn't believe the shit I was hearing. Because again, this is 09. This is like, I think this is actually before making the band. Maybe no.
It's a little bit after. Yeah,
it's a little bit after. The things he told me about how Diddy treated his talent from a financial perspective, because we all talked about bad contracts, very Don Kingish, right? Like,
yeah,
the way he handled his contracts was very Don Kingish. But he would talk about how he treated people physically and emotionally. And it all got swept under the rug because Mark Curry wasn't a big star, right? I think Mark talked about how he treated Craig Mack. I think Mark talked about how he treated Biggie. Like, Biggie was his meal ticket, but everybody else was like collateral damage and a means for him to be successful, because ultimately the goal was for Diddy to be the big star on the label after Biggie died.
Yeah.
And the way he went about it is he treated people like shit. And Curry, this is something that Curry, I don't know where the interview is. I'll say this. When I tried to publish the interview, I got a lot of pushback at BET because the claims were so wild and Diddy was still so very closely tied to BET that it was like, well, if we can't get a statement, maybe it's not worth the time. And I'm like, man, but I've heard all this shit before. Now it's 2014. Yo, you lived a good life, Diddy. You made a lot of money. It's time to pay the piper, right? Like it's a wrap for you. It is a wrap. I've heard people ask me, and I've seen it on social media. It's like, yo, are you like banning Diddy's music? Are you treating him like R. Kelly? No, because R. Kelly like talked about the shit he did in his music. It's very uncomfortable to listen to Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, knowing what R. Kelly has done. The art is part of the artist and part of the crime. I can't listen to R. Kelly. I'm not gonna not listen to a Biggie record, right? I'm not gonna. This is just not how this works. If you're asking me to not listen to Diddy records that where he raps, I don't do that anyway. So you're not really taking anything away from me. But all this is now is I gotta watch how legally this is handled and what floodgates this opens to the rest of the music industry. Because Diddy was a serial abuser, mentally and physically. Now that that's been opened up, who else is going to fall? Because, yeah, Russell Simmons is in Bali. He's never touching American soil again. He's like, yo, all right, fuck all that. I don't be here. You want to see me? Come visit me. Who's next? That's the question now, because if Diddy could get taken down by this, yo, this is long overdue. I'm surprised.
It's ingrained. I was talking to someone, I guess during like the first Diddy accusations. And I have like tons of people in my family and surrounding family in the music industry, almost everyone, which is why I never cared to join it. But someone was talking to me about like making the transition from being an artist to managing artists, because it's like the thing in New York. Like everyone does it, right? And the Diddy stuff broke, and they're like, people laugh about shit like when you watch like even the early like Love and Hip Hop episodes in Atlanta and New York and everything, and Creep Squad and Stevie and all this shit. Like people laugh about that a lot. And this person was like, no, that's the way of life in the industry. It was like when I tried to make the transition, found a really dope like 19-year-old reggaeton artist, and she was really cool from the Bronx, really good. She could spit at that time. Like I think Nina Sky was big and like all this shit, like whatever. It was like the thing. So it's like, yeah, that's cool. And then he was like a fellow person who was managing for years and women talent, all this stuff at a high level. Was like, okay, cool, cool. He was like, and there's no other way to say it. He was like, you fuck her yet? And this person was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just the manager. He was like, let me tell you how this business works. He's like, if you're gonna have a female talent, you gotta fuck them. That's the only way they stay in line. And this was like a person, like in the industry, high up. And that was their thing. So like when you watch Love and Hip Hop and all this shit, and even like the Cardi B shit when she was signed to like Self or whatever on that, and like they were having a little affair, and Stevie B with Jocelyn and blah blah. It's like the mentality for a long time was like, oh, you got a female artist, you gotta fuck them. That's why when I look at like the R. Kelly and Aaliyah shit, I'm like, not surprised. Or
Yep.
the Dame Dash stuff with this and that, like it was a thing. And they really just told me, like, nah, they told me straight up. Like, yo, if you want to manage female talent, like, y'all got to be getting it in. Because if not, she's going to have no attachment to you. And she's going to go and someone else is going to get that money. And I'm just like, this shit sounds like pimping to me. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a very thin line. These ideologies sound very, very close. And I was like, the industry is built on fundamentally stripping the humanity from someone so that they owe you something. And that's like a tactic. And then financially, it's a whole different world.
Like, you know, Jermaine Dupri had a relationship with Candy Burris, which ended up breaking up Escape, right? Like, there are relationships in the music industry that everybody knows about.
Yep.
There are abusive elements to those relationships based on leveraging hyper masculinity, especially in hip hop, against women who are trying to navigate their way through a male dominated industry. It's the reason why you didn't see very many women rappers at some point. They just started disappearing. Dave Mays, when he was at the Source, was dating Lil' Kim, and Lil' Kim's Naked Truth got 5 mics magically.
Yeah.
That's not Lil' Kim's best album. Cut it out. But I think the arrogance of this industry is so documented in Love and Hip Hop that people didn't really. It was like the gay joke that people didn't understand. Yo, you're wrong for telling that joke.
Yeah.
Keep telling it. Keep telling on yourself, because all Love and Hip Hop has done, making the band Love and Hip Hop, anything that focuses on this industry has shown this ugly side of it that at first it's funny until somebody gets fucked up. And then you go, oh, that shit was not funny. We thought it was cute. We thought it was entertainment. But then you start looking back and you go, yo, the seeds were planted in these abusive relationships on these shows. Jocelyn and Stevie, that shit wasn't natural, bro. Like, I don't give any credit to Stevie J or Benzino. Like, Benzino's a piece of shit. We all know it. And Benzino's like, now he's speaking up. Oh, you guys are crying. Diddy. Wait till the shit come out about you, bro.
Yeah.
We like super documented. Now, some women have forgiven some of these men for the transgressions in the past. They've chalked it up to immaturity or whatever, how the industry was. It's always a difficult part of the industry because some of those things were okay for those people back then. Some of those people had never sat right with, and now they're getting a chance to speak out. So there's a time and a place for everything, and like now is the time for people to start barking and be like, yo, like this shit is fucked up. The thing that we're going to see now, obviously we're going to talk about Cam on CNN in a second too. Because these rappers from the 90s and 2000s have now become media personalities, they are being the ones to provide commentary on shit like Diddy. The reason this becomes an issue is, and I'm not saying these people in particular, Noriega, Joe Budden, Cam, Mace, they all come from this era.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Budden should have mentioned it all or speak on it, but whatever.
But my point is that you have people that were at least very closely associated to abuse and rape culture, all these things. It's really hard for them to distance themselves from it without flat out lying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, I'll get to Cam's shit in a minute. If when Joe Budden is now saying, the allegations started coming at him real quick. Well, what about Joe Budden? And Joe was like, nope, never did it. And I think Imani was on the Joe Budden podcast. It was like, I never seen him do that. No, you wouldn't, right? Like, we're homies, but you ain't in my house. Like, domestic abuse usually doesn't happen in front of your friends.
Joe Budden has a line that says back and forth domestics, none of them flights either. When talking about Tahiri, like he was very open about them putting their hands on each other. She did stab him once or something. No, his first baby mama stabbed him, but he kicked the shit out of her. And like Tahiri hit him over the head with something. Like he's been very honest, but he put his hands on all of them.
Yeah,
it's in his music.
This is what I'm saying. We start telling on ourselves, and now we have these personalities coming out and being the voice of the culture, and it's like, of course you're going to get called. You put yourself in a journalistic position.
Yep.
So when CNN says we need to get a prominent figure in this industry to speak on these issues, of course you're going to call Cameron. Even though they should have called Mace. Of course you're going to call Cameron.
Mace ain't talking.
He not. But this is why you're getting called. Because, yeah, man, Horse and Carriage came out around the same time that Mace was hot. Yep. Mace was signed to Diddy. You and Mace are best friends. Why wouldn't I ask you, what did you see?
Yep.
Right? Like, it's not far-fetched for you to not see it. These Diddy parties are legendary. I've never been to one. I always wanted to go to one. Thank God I didn't, because probably the shit I would have seen there could have gotten me, incriminated at some point.
Yeah.
But these are why these questions are being asked. And I'm very careful I'm not very careful. I will be watching very carefully to see how these questions get answered by people who lived it and were around Diddy when all this shit was going down, because it wasn't like Diddy kept his activity a secret. There just were no camera phones at that time.
Yeah, I am closer and privy to a lot of conversations than most in regards to that. I mean, I've said it on this show for years. Like, Puff and my father are the two best men at my Uncle Chuck's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Uncle Chuck and Puff have been on many a trip, many a boat, many a party. They went to middle school together, hung out since. Like, I have been to birthday parties for, I believe, every one of Puff's kids, except for the recent ones. It's one of those things where you don't see that aspect of that side. But I'm sure I know people, and I've spoken loosely before all this came out. I even asked my Uncle Chuck. I was like, yo, what's going on with your boy? Before any of this came out. Like, yo, he's a little wild. Nah, he just, we have fun, blah, blah. There's certain aspects of this I'm not shocked by. I think people close to him, and this is just the truth, the drugs always, and the substances, regardless, I don't know exactly what they were, but they provided this bubble and this veil to those close to him.
Right.
He is this person here. He is this person when partying and on substances. And it's always, well, yeah, no, he's fine. Oh, well, he lost Kim. So if he started partying a little more, then, maybe he's doing some stuff, but he's going through stuff. He's grieving. When he broke up with J-Lo, oh, well, he was partying a lot. If you find a story about Puff where he wasn't partying, I'd be shocked, because that's the industry excuse for him. Not that he's a bad person. It is, well, this was going on. Well, there was a lot of stress. Well, Biggie died. That was the first. Well, Biggie died.
Yeah.
And then he started acting like an asshole or treating people like this and getting out of control. Well, then he fell in love with J-Lo. Oh, why did they break up? They were a great couple. Well, this was all going. All right, man. Like, that's always the excuse for him. And I pulled up the Mark Curry transcript. I'll go through it like after this. I'd be shocked if half those stories were, well, we were partying. Well, no, Puff was just out. He had too much. It's always an excuse of separating the person from the substance. And sooner or later, you just got to recognize that the person is choosing the substance. And much like pro wrestling, it is not making the person, it is just heightening who they are.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like having a gimmick in wrestling. Like, no, this is who they are. It's just they are louder with it and more outward with it if they're taking things.
Yeah, that's all it is. And shout out to Ryan Clark, who just put it really flatly. Diddy's a bitch. That's what he said on the pivot. Big shout out to Ryan Clark for keeping it a buck there. Before we go, I do want to mention, because people have asked, what do you think about Cam on CNN? All right. Whoever the talent agent was, that was like, hey, we should call Cameron. Somebody in the room should have been like, do you know the last time Cam was like doing like Bill O'Reilly or like?
I love that interview, by the way. I got dirt on you, doggy. That shit is still, that's classic. A hood classic.
This man said he promoted his pink powerhouse boning energy drink, and then he's going to clap cheeks after this. I was mildly offended that this happened on CNN and embarrassed because like, oh, Cam. But then I was like, it's Cam, right? And this is what he does. And I'm not saying I like it, but I'm saying when you book Cam for something like this and start asking him questions about Diddy, this is what you're going to get. Because he ain't going to go in deep on this. Now, Cam talked about it the day after with Treasure and Mace.
Yep.
And said they don't call me to do stories when I do good stuff in the community. This is a complicated thing because, hey, Cam, your podcast doesn't promote that either. So it's really difficult for CNN to come calling you to say, hey, let's talk about the good you've done in the community. For what? That's not what we're here for. That's not what you project. That's not like when the biggest and most viral moments on the podcast is O.J. Simpson.
Yep.
The quote unquote receptionist, which I know there ain't no receptionist at the goddamn studio. We were there.
We're there.
The receptionist dancing on the table and throwing money. Like
there's no receptionist. There's no receptionist. We recorded, right?
Yeah.
Back to
back. There's no desk. There was nobody that checks you in.
No.
None of that exists. Whatever. But these are the things that go viral with Cam and Mace.
Yeah.
So don't anticipate CNN saying, let's call Cam to figure out what did he do with the community this week or how many times Mace talks to the kids. It's never going to happen. It's just that's not what you project.
And I'm glad you do it.
Me too, but don't tell people to start interviewing for that stuff. No. Full transparency, my friend Chanel, who was our publicist for Our Heroes Rocking Bridges, is Cam's publicist. So we're close. And I see Chanel and she's just like, yeah, why don't they? And I'm like, yo, he don't project that. Yeah. Like, that's not the energy that Cam's ever given to the public. It has always been some wild shit. It's always been Rico from Paid in Full 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, that's who Cam is. The other side of this is, I don't understand what CNN's talent agent was thinking booking Cam. What did you expect was going to happen on?
You only have so many options.
Dude, Cam ain't one of them.
You can get Black Thought, who'll give you like some real in-depth black man shit. You can get Nori, because he has like a legit crew and publicist. And the key is you want to get someone who speaks on a mic, like you said, at least journalistically a little bit every week. So you got Nori, which maybe, but he's down on the list under Cam. Mace's go-to. So you're like, yo, who could we get? Mace? He has a weekly podcast. Mace says no. All right, what about the guy next to Mace? Then it's like, he's from New York. He's been around. He's one of maybe 3 or 4 people. Joe Budden. Who gives a fuck what Joe Budden has to say here? Cam is positioned great. If someone wanted to do a radio interview of like Blue Wire Studios, right? Like say some wild shit happens at Blue Wire. And like when we were there. And they're like, yo, we got to talk to people, blah, blah. Who records weekly there? Like, yo, the Blue Wire boss has fucking lost his mind, blah. Let's talk to some talent. They call Cam. No, Cam Mason too crazy. Like, we're not going to get Cam Mason. They're like, you know what? Let's get Andreas Kel. This motherfucker talk, and you're just like, they might be like, let's get the kid who speaks with him every week. What's that Kel fellow doing? And it's just like, all right. And then I go and I'd be like, I don't know what you want me to say. There's no receptionist. There's no desk.
This is the thing. Okay, so I've done shows like CNN. I've done like Roland Martin show.
Wow.
I've done. There's a part of this that nobody is talking about. I think Jamel Hill may have brought it up, and I'm very aware of this, and I want the listeners to know this too. Cam didn't come on that show cold. It doesn't happen. When CNN or somebody books you as a guest, they do what they call as a pre-interview, where they prep you on what is going to be discussed on this show. Now, could there have been an extenuating circumstance where Cam was like, I ain't doing that shit, and then Chanel or whoever the publicist was like, hey, let me know what the questions are? That could have happened, and Cam could have still been blindsided. But this isn't CNN's fault, because I guarantee you that there was a pre-interview before the actual interview.
And they're like, yo, we're talking Puff.
Yes. This is either the failing of Cam, who wanted to act up, or his team didn't let him know exactly what was going on because he didn't participate in the pre-interview. They didn't blindside Cam. It doesn't happen. When I did Roland Martin show, when I did Fox, when I did those shows, we do an interview. It's not like the full interview, but they basically tell you, they check your connection to make sure your connection is good.
Yep.
Then they tell you meet the host. They ask you a few questions about yourself just to make sure you're the right fit for the show. And then they go, all right, cool. We'll see you in like 2 hours. This is how it always runs. So if they did a pre-interview with Cam, he can't sit there and say, why y'all acting me? You knew.
Yeah.
You knew, and you took liberty to say, well, let me plug my penis drink right now and say I'm going to clap some cheeks. Could have happened, but there's no way he was totally blindsided by what happened. There's no way he showed up on CNN thinking he was talking anything but Puff.
Yeah, he's not on a press tour.
Nah,
so I don't know. Maybe it was on some, you can ask me about the podcast and then we'll talk a little bit about Puff, and the questions weren't that crazy yet.
They weren't, but this also speaks to the journalist relationship with talent, right? That lady who had that interview, she had no idea how to handle Cam.
Abby Phillips.
And I'm not sure anybody knows how to handle Cam, right? But she was like a deer in the headlights when he was like, I'm going to clap some cheeks. She was like, uh-oh. This thing is about to go left on live television. This thing is about to go left.
Just wrapping it up. Try to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's like, all right, time to go home. Let's take this home. This ain't going to go well. Like, there was a failure on so many levels. Talent management, whoever booked Cam's team, or Cam himself, trying to act like he didn't know what this was about. It was a mess. But it was just like, you booked Cam.
But it was a viral mess. It went everywhere.
It was. It's just not, it doesn't benefit anybody but Cam. Cam did what it was going to work. It worked for him. At the end of the day, we all go, yay, Cam, because it's funny and hilarious. And this is what we expect.
Because he'd done it before. He knew, we know I can act a fool on this and it'll go.
Yep.
And more people know about the podcast or whatever. But it's still one of those things where then, and I guess we'll just wrap it up with this, then hip hop has a problem. And we've just been talking about this for a long time, where there isn't anyone to call. When we really got to talk real shit.
There isn't.
Like, what am I calling? Academics?
Right.
Like, if, God forbid, anything stupid out of line would have happened to anyone in Drake's camp or Kendrick's camp because of the beef, who we call to speak on this? Like, who's an authority figure? Because they've deemed Elliot Wilson, I guess, people call Elliot, like, it's his close, and he's honestly from the old guard.
Yeah.
But they've stopped. There's a stark disconnect, more in music than there is in sports, even in terms of journalism, and damn sure a lot more than it is in politics. Now that I cover that a little bit, it's just the journalists have been removed and silenced.
Yep.
And I'm not sure why.
It's about entertainment, because people want to be entertained. They don't want the truth.
But that's in everything. Same thing in politics. But there are journalists with these shows. There are talking head, like, there's people you can call who can still get busy and they trust them in front of a camera. In sports, yes, there's a ton of former athletes. But You can get a Levitard. You can get a Michael Smith. You can
Yeah.
get people, Pablo, whoever it may be. Combat. You can get Ariel. You can get you. You can get Cop. People who are still entertaining, but know their shit. Music,
Nah, that's why I got out, man. It's
yeah,
too many.
like
It's
they've
too much ass
silenced,
kissing.
they've silenced it to the point of there, there's no gatekeepers in a bad way.
Yeah, it's bad. We'll see what'll happen, and we'll keep talking about this as the weeks go on.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be interesting to watch unfold. This seems like just an early domino in what could be a long line of wild shit in the music industry. So on that, we'll get ready to wrap up. Shout out to everyone again for subscribing to Patreon. Next week, Corner Club episode part 2. Shout out to everyone who signed up for that already. If you haven't, I think there's one more slot left. Throw your name in the hat. I think you might have a chance still to get on that episode. If not, the June one, don't worry, I got you. It'll be really, really fun. Hell, we might talk about this if someone decides to talk about this next week. It might be one of the segments. We appreciate you all, though, thoroughly. For myself, for the old man Andreas Hale. Till next time, we're out.
Peace.